here, hoping you are having a wonderful week so far. If not, give me a call at 856-244-1503. We would love to pray for you. And if you've listened to the show in the past, some of our goals here on the Des Child Show is to interview artists, both independent and signed, to keep you, the listener, updated on, what's happening in the music community around the world. And if you're an independent artist and you want to be interviewed, contact me at that same number, 856-244-1503. But this week's independent featured artist is Shauna Marie. I had the privilege of talking to Shauna last week during our winter wonderland snowstorm blizzard here in New Jersey. So here's the first part of my interview with her. I know you will love her and her music. She's a real sweetheart.
Hello.
Hi, Shauna. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Awesome. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
And you pronounce your name Shauna Marie, right?
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, the first question was, how are you? So I think we got that. And I'm so excited to have you on the Des Child Show this afternoon. And you're from Oklahoma, correct?
Yes.
Is it snowing there in Oklahoma like it is here? We're having a blizzard.
Oh, my goodness. Yep. No, it is really cold. We're supposed to be getting in some kind of Arctic front that's supposed to be coming in, I guess, tonight and tomorrow. So it's going to be in the 20s, but not snowing. Sounds like you've got it a lot worse.
We do, yeah. It's a winter wonderland outside, so it's about 20 degrees, something like that, 20 below. So not fun. Do you like the summer or the winter?
Well, honestly, I like the winter.
Yeah, okay.
I don't like really, really hot.
Gotcha, me too.
And that probably came from when I had lupus, just because that was just not a time of the year that's very friendly to lupus. But, and I just still carry that with me. I just don't like hot.
Gotcha. And you're pretty young. Can I ask how old you are, Shauna?
Well, I am 33.
Wow, okay. You sound a lot younger, and you look pretty young in your pictures. So, 33, that's not old either. But when did you get lupus? When were you diagnosed?
Well, I honestly think that that's something that I had since I was a teenager.
Okay, so.
I didn't know it.
So it was just dormant and then, okay.
I look back now, and there was so many times when there were warning signs, and times when doctors had said certain things, times when I broke out in rashes when I went to tanning beds.
Okay.
There were definitely things that were what they would say, were warning signs of it, but it's not something that ran in my family.
Okay.
It's not something that they ever checked me for because they didn't ever think that there was reason to. So it was always, when I went to the doctor, they just always came up with something else or just had no answers for me at all.
So it's not a genetic thing?
Yes.
Okay.
It's usually something if there had been someone in my family, they would have immediately gone there.
Okay.
But there's just not.
Okay. We're going to get back to our interview with Shauna Marie in just a minute, but I want to play some of her music since she is our featured independent artist of the week. I was going through her EP called He Heals the Broken, and she's got about 5 songs on there, and this one really stood out to me. It's an upbeat piece called Stay. Hope you enjoy it.
Smile lights up a room. So why this darkness over you? Don't you know he's watching over you? One day he'll wipe away these tears. One day all the pain will disappear. So when you're scared and it seems nobody cares, just stay. I know you're hurting bad. that whispers the truth. No matter what they say, they can never take this love away. Just stay. I know you're hurting bad. Don't run away when hope is all you have. 'Cause I'm here to stay always. Oh, always. Always. Oh, always. 'Cause I'm here to say you are beautiful, you are loved, made in my image, made to love. Nothing can break this unbreakable bond. So just hold on, just hold on. Just stay. I know you're hurting bad. Don't run away when hope is all you have. 'Cause I'm here to stay always. Oh, always. Always. Oh, always. 'Cause I'm here to stay always, 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 always. Always, 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 always. 'Cause I'm here to stay always.
That was Shauna Marie with her song called Stay. She released her debut EP called He Heals the Broken last week, and I got the chance to talk with this sweet, wonderful, godly woman. And so let's continue with her interview right now. Let's talk about you a little bit more. Let's talk about your music. So you're a singer-songwriter from Oklahoma. Would you consider yourself a singer-songwriter? What genre would you put yourself in?
Well, I would say that I was more of a songwriter, and that's how I started. I've been a writer since I was a teenager. I always wrote, whether it was poems, songs. I tried many times to write a book and just quit because I got too overwhelmed with it. I was always a writer, always writing. I just have notebooks filled with stuff, boxes filled with stuff. I just never did anything with it. So I think it was, I never really thought about being a singer. It was more, I always thought about being a writer of some kind, or writing music. And that's kind of how I got into this, was my, kind of like in my bio, I thought, well, maybe someone else would sing my song.
That's funny. That's funny because I'm actually the opposite. I was I am a singer, and I never thought I'd write music ever. So that's funny. You're a writer who never considered herself to be a singer. And I'm a singer who never considered herself to be a writer. So that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and so it's interesting how we go, how things turn out.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was kind of challenging when my producer kind of threw that out there about me singing my own songs, because I had sang in church choir when I was a teenager and stuff like that. But I mean, I guess you could say I was always one of those people that thought, oh, I have a church voice.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sing at church and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm not gonna try to actually get out there and sing as a career.
Yeah, as an artist. Yeah.
As an artist.
Yeah.
That was like something that was very intimidating to me. I was terrified of getting up in front of people. And that was just something that I definitely was not thinking about. Did I love to sing? Yes. I loved singing. But
now,
it's totally different when you have to get up in front of people. And
sure.
I'm sure tons of people that can relate to us in that regard.
Absolutely.
I love singing, but it's kind of like public speaking. It's for some people, it's a skill that you have to develop.
Right.
It's not something that comes naturally. And for me, it did not come natural.
Yeah, and for most people, public speaking and or singing or performing is more scary than death. It's a proven fact that people would more rather face death than they would talking in front of other people. That's funny.
Yes, and it's crazy how we do that to ourselves. Because, I
Yeah,
mean, if we really put it in perspective, it's really not that bad.
it really isn't.
I had one of those, I mean, where I tried to try it for the worship team at my church, and I'm not kidding. I got up there, and it was just like, I don't know what happened to me. I knew the words to the song, practiced it over and over again, but as soon as I got up there in front of the worship team and the people,
You forgot the
my mouth
words.
went totally dry.
Mm.
I started forgetting all the words, and it was just like, I just shut down. And I was just like, what is happening to me? And I just had to stop, and I had to get off the stage, and the worship leader was just like, are you nervous? And I'm thinking, I'm something. I mean, I just totally broke down. I'm just like, you almost don't even know what to say because you're thinking, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this?
Right.
You know, it's like I can envision it in my mind over and over again, me doing this, but it's like that response that
Mhm.
it's not happening. But at the same time, that was like the best thing that could have happened to me because it just made me realize, hey, this is. It was I guess you could say a humbling moment in my progression, but it kind of took me back to what Brett Manning had said to me in my session with him when he said that I lacked confidence and that I'm going to have to come to a point where I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to have to be okay with it, that I'm going to mess up words and I'm going to do things like that and I'm going to have to be okay with that.
Right. We are so alike, Shauna, you and I, because I'm a performer myself. I sing, I write songs, got an album, and I drive my manager nuts because I am a perfectionist when it comes to the live show. I want things to be perfect. And so I totally understand where you're coming from because if that perfection isn't met, we feel like, well, it's not going to be perfect and people aren't going to be people aren't going to like us or accept us. Have you ever checked out Tom Jackson? I believe he worked with Brett Manning before.
That was actually some of the videos that I purchased.
Oh, okay.
I'm still working on watching all of them, but I have not. And so I'm glad that you mentioned them too because that's
It's confirmation.
I'm definitely trying to go through. I've not worked with him personally, but I'm definitely checking out his videos.
Is that the All Roads Lead to the Stage? The DVDs? Yeah, I actually just purchased them myself, and they're a really great tool. So I'm actually on the last DVD now, and that's another thing we have in common. That's so funny. Have you learned a lot from the DVDs? You feeling more confident at all? Because for me personally, he's definitely helped build my own confidence.
Yes, I'm really glad that I did do that because I'm like you. I mean, I just think that there's nothing. As long as we keep reaching out there and we keep trying to learn and grow
Sure.
and better ourselves, that we're doing the very best that we can, and there's always room to grow.
Absolutely.
And as long as we start to just, like we said, just realize that we're human, and that I don't think there's anybody when we go to a show. I mean, I don't know if you're like me in this regard, but I've been to shows where, like, I've seen Toby Mac, like, joke around and goof around on stage and fall down and stuff like that, and I don't have the same expectation of him that I do of me, on stage, that I think it's okay for them, to actually and do things and have fun and actually enjoy that, and then for me, I'm like, oh no, mine's got to be, like, perfectly scripted from one
Right.
to the other, and everything's got to be fine. And so maybe too we put standards on us that when we go and watch a show, we don't have that same standard. That we actually enjoy and have fun sometimes when things are carefree and loose. And sometimes that's what makes the show so fun, is because we see the person having fun,
Right.
and relaxing and everything. And so I'm trying to remind myself of that too, that the more fun I have and the more fun that people see me have, that the more they're going to enjoy the show,
Yes.
and that it'll just kind of radiate,
Right.
out to them. And so,
One thing that's really helped me, and Tom Jackson talks about this all the time, is loving your audience. And if you love your audience, you're going to want them to have fun. You're going to want them to even cry, at the more touching moments of your songs. Um and that really changed my perspective. And from what you're saying, it's changing your perspective and making you more confident, and seeing Toby Mac have fun on stage, it makes us relax and have fun. And you can really see that Toby Mac does love his audience. He loves people, and I think that really what makes him a successful artist and a successful Christian too. He's doing that most important commandment, loving God and loving people with all his heart, soul, and mind. So speaking of Toby Mac, let's play some Toby Mac right now. This is Get Back Up.
You turned away when I looked you in the eye, and hesitated when I asked if you were alright. Seems like you're fighting for your life, but why, oh why? Wide awake in the middle of your nightmare. You saw it coming, but it hit you out of nowhere. And there's always scars when you fall that far. We lose our way, we get back up again. It's never too late to get back up again. And one day you gon' shine again. You may be knocked down, but not out forever. Lose our way, we get back up again. So get up, you gon' shine again. It's never too late to get back up again. You may be knocked down, but not out forever. Maybe knocked down, but not out forever. You rolled out at the dawning of the day, heart racing as you made your little getaway. It feels like you've been running all your life, but why, oh why? So you pull away from the love that would have been there, and stop believing that your situation's unfair. But there's always scars when you fall that far. We lose our way, we get back up again. It's never too late to get back up again. And one day you gon' shine again. You may be knocked down, but not out forever. Lose our way, we get back up again. So get up, you gon' shine again. It's never too late to get back up again. You may be knocked down, but not out forever. Maybe knocked down, but not out forever. This is love calling out to the broken. This is love calling. This is love calling out to the broken. This is love calling. This is love calling. I am so broken. This is love calling. We lose our way, we get back up again. It's never too late. You may be knocked down, but not out forever. Lose our way, we get back up again. So get up, you gon' shine again. It's never too late to get back up again. You may be knocked down, but not out forever. This is love calling. Get back up to the broken. This is love calling. You may be knocked down, but not out forever. This is love calling. Get back up to the broken. This is love calling. You may be knocked down, but not out forever. This is love calling out to the broken. This is love calling.
That was Toby Mac with Get Back Up. And if you have fallen, if you have sinned, we all fall short of the glory of God. We all sin. So get back up, brush yourself off. It's going to be all right. Repent and turn around. So you're listening to an interview I did with independent artist Shauna Marie. She is a wonderful, godly woman. And if you've been listening so far, she just has a wonderful testimony, a wonderful heart for people. So let's keep listening. You also have a artist management company. I was really intrigued by that. What is that called again? The company that you have?
It's called Legacy Artist Management.
Okay. How did you get started with that? That's really cool.
Well, that kind of comes out of the fact that, I never planned on being an artist.
Yeah.
So, I kind of taken a different direction. I actually got my start in the music business or the side of things by volunteering with Air One Radio.
Oh, okay.
And so I started volunteering with them, working at their booths and volunteering at concerts. And so by doing that, I kind of, really started to love just the music business, working with artists and working events. And I thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to work with artists.
And little did you know you'd become one.
I had no idea.
Oh, I love God's plans.
I know, it's so surreal. I just knew after working one Switch Fit show, I thought, this is what I want to do. I feel this is the call of my life. I want to do this the rest of my life. And so just slowly, I just started trying to get more involved, working with churches. If I saw a need, I just tried to get more involved. If I felt like they needed something, I just tried to kind of step in and see if I could fill that need. And it was nothing like at that time in my mind as a job. It was more just trying to
A ministry.
fill a need, And so over time I got more involved in promotions. Like if a church needed help promoting a show, I would just do it. Or if an artist needed help, getting an interview because they were coming to town to do a show, I would help them get that interview. Just a lot of pro bono work for years, just learning the ins and outs of things. And finally got my first job booking for a band, and then I ended up booking for a lot of bands.
It just kept growing.
Ended up one thing leading to another until I finally started to think, some people would even, mention pay. And for so long I was just like, no. And until finally I started thinking, maybe I could do this. I've got so many people coming to me. Maybe I have something to offer, people. And I happen to notice that, and at least where we live here in Oklahoma, we're so far away from Nashville and everything that there's a lot of artists that I felt were making a huge impact for Christ. They were, leading people to Christ, but they weren't necessarily the type of artist that labels were looking for. And I just felt like there was a need for them. They wanted to do better. They, wanted help getting on tours and doing different things, but they didn't really feel like there was anybody that was listening to them. And so I guess you could say I just felt kind of a call to kind of be that in between. And that's kind of where legacy came from, because I felt like it was more about the legacy that we leave as opposed to, whether we're ever signed or successful in the world's eyes.
Right.
Kind of the mark that we leave. And Josh Oliver, he's the drummer for Decipher Down. He was kind of doing the same thing at the time. He was working with artists, and we kind of felt like we would do better as a team working together as opposed to doing two separate companies apart. So we kind of joined forces, and we worked together for several years. Now, it's actually been since 2010, so it's going on into our fourth year.
I believe your EP, He Heals the Broken, released today, or is that tomorrow?
It was today.
It's today. Well, congratulations. I remember reading that. I think you posted something on Facebook, and I said, wow, that's interesting because our interview's tomorrow, so this is perfect. And so did you release the physical copy, or is it just on iTunes?
Well, right now it's just digital.
Okay.
But I have it on iTunes, Spotify, Noise Trays. I released it to just numerous, I put it on my Facebook page, just numerous digital outlets so that just about anybody hopefully will have access to it. if they're online. It's on iHeartRadio.
Yeah, the internet's a great tool for that, to get exposure. Let's talk about, you have the song called He Heals the Broken as well. Let's talk about that. Now, where did the inspiration come for that song? Did you write it with somebody else, or was this your song?
Well, I initially wrote it by myself, and then I sent it to Pete, and I kind of told him what I was thinking, what my inspiration and everything had been, and he helped me to tweak it. Definitely, his contributions and his ideas were also great to bring it to where it is at this point. So,
how did you go about writing it? Do you play an instrument?
That's the struggle that I have.
Okay.
I do not play an instrument, so I'm learning piano.
Okay, piano's a great first instrument because it's a visual instrument. Have you tried guitar yet, acoustic?
I've tried it, and I hate to sound like such a... but my fingers, it's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
so,
it can be painful. Painful
yes.
process. And you write Christian music, obviously. Are there some songs where you don't say God or Jesus? Do you kind of leave it open to interpretation, or do you like to, to keep it Christian?
Oh, if I don't say God or Jesus, it's not because I'm trying to keep it open to interpretation.
Right.
It's
just kind of how the song developed.
I think it was, probably how the song developed. But for me, the message is very clear, because I think all my songs have a very deep message.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get past the spiritual, because that's my faith.
Sure. Yeah.
I know some people, don't like to call music like Christian music, and that's fine for me, because I'm Christian.
Right.
So I just know that anything that I touch is going to be influenced by that.
Absolutely. It's who you are, so it's going to permeate throughout your entire life, even in your songwriting. I totally get that. So right now I would love to play for you Shauna Marie's first single and the title of her EP. This is called He Heals the Broken.
Can't find the words to say. Your heart feels heavy and about to break. Can't seem to lift your eyes or kneel down to pray. Feels like your strength is gone. It's hard to even think of moving on. This is where the battle of the will is won. But no matter when the winds blow or the sky starts to rage, at the end of every dark night is a brand new day. And even now, when the storm has reached its peak, when the ground begins to sink, our security cannot be stolen. And even now, His love is shining down. Through the darkness we are found by the one we put our hope in. He heals the broken. Some days it's a fight to keep getting up and not give up on life. But He's never given up on you or left your side. And when doubt comes to capture the peace that He gave, we will cling to the anchor of the promises He's made. And even now, when the storm has reached its peak, when the ground begins to sink, by the one we put our hope in. He heals the broken. When you're crying and you're trying just to understand, when you can't see through the dark, he'll take you by the hand. And even now, when the storm has reached its peak, when the ground begins to sink, our security cannot be stolen. And even now, his love is shining down. Through the darkness we are found by the one we put our hope in. He heals the broken. He heals the broken.
What a powerful song by independent artist Shauna Marie. She just released her EP called He Heals the Broken, and that song is also called He Heals the Broken. And it is so true that God binds up our wounds and He heals the brokenhearted. And I know personally for me, He's done that many times because life's hard and we do experience brokenness. Even as Christians, we're not exempt from hardships. We're not exempt from suffering or persecution, no matter how big or how small the suffering. We're not exempt from the difficulties of life. So I hope you're enjoying everything that Shauna Marie has been sharing with us today. And she has some more to share with us now. So let's continue with the interview. When did you give your heart to Christ? When did you get saved? And how did God change your life? How did God's love change your life after that? Give us a bit of your testimony.
Well, I was raised in church from the time I was about three onward. Both of my parents were not believers. They were not believers, and my mom became a believer, around the time I was 3 or 4 years old and started taking me to church. But they both met, they had very lost lives up until that point. And so it was really hard for them to, for my mother and for them to make a different life for us. But they have done an amazing job of trying to do that. Even my dad, even though he's not a believer, from what they came from. But I can't say that my upbringing was, all pieces,
Right.
It was definitely very, very difficult at times.
Sure.
And I did finally come to know Christ when I was 13 in a very personal way, not just from going to church, but actually know Him.
Right, making Him Lord and Savior of your life and not just a weekend
and
thing.
that made a profound impact on how I handled the things that I was faced with. But that didn't mean that I still didn't make wrong decisions or that some things weren't still very difficult. But in my adult life, I faced marriage and even divorce, and I questioned God about that tremendously because, I had this very perfectionistic, idealistic view of how your life should be as a believer, and if you're faithful, how it should be. And I thought, God, I'm faithful to you. Why is all this bad stuff happening?
Right.
I thought, this should not be happening.
Yeah, I'm a Christian. My life should be perfect.
Yeah, and of course it's totally contrary to the Bible. Because you look at the disciples and you look at all the believers in Job, and we see quite the contrary. In fact, the more faithful you are,
the more
probably
persecution.
the more persecuted you're going to be. And yet, I didn't quite get that from growing up in church. I didn't quite get that teaching. I think I got more of a, if you're really faithful and you do the right thing, you're going to meet the one, and you're going to get married, and everything's
Fairy
great.
tale Disney movie.
So when I faced those hardships, and especially divorce, I felt like a failure. And I felt like there was something deeply wrong. And so I started to question, God and his love and whether or not I could trust him or not. And, I don't know if there's anyone else out there that's faced that same struggle, but when you start to really question God, and it was like, well, if you're not going to take care of me, if you're not going to protect me, because I was in an abusive relationship. So it was even harder because it was someone that was a pastor. I married a pastor, and he was abusive.
Oh my goodness.
So for me, it was, okay, I don't understand this, God. I really wanted to serve you, poured my heart into this, and at the time I couldn't see that this person was also a child of God, probably struggling. I was only thinking about me and my struggle. Now that I'm removed from it, I can have mercy and compassion on the other person. But for me at the time, I was thinking about me and what that meant. And I fell away from God for a long time. I fell away from the church because I felt abandoned by the church. I felt like they didn't care. And I think that's maybe where I've seen some other people in similar situations struggle. And I don't know who might need to hear this, but I just want to reach out and tell somebody that we have to remember that it's not God or his love. It's not God that's doing that. It's a person or people that are not demonstrating God's love. And it's so easy for us to turn what someone does to us and make it God and turn our blame against God for what someone does. And I did that for years. I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to get involved. I didn't want to, because of what somebody in the past had done to me or what a church in the past had done to me. I used that as my excuse for never getting involved again or for not getting close to God again. And I stayed distant from God for years. And I just continued to fall away and make really horrible decisions. And it took me literally hitting rock bottom. And what's amazing is it was after me hitting rock bottom to the point of wanting to literally almost take my own life that God brought me from that to where I am today.
Wow. Well, I don't think you had mentioned that in your bio, Shauna, that you had, married a pastor and he was abusive. I didn't see it anywhere in there, but I think you just have so much to offer your audience and your fans with your testimony. There is just so much there. And just, even with your thoughts of suicide, want to take your own life, I think Christians aren't excluded from that. I think a lot of Christians deal with the depression and suicidal thoughts. So I think what you just said is so divine and so from the Lord. And I think your music ministry and just your life, living your own life is going to be such a testimony to people. And just listening to you myself, you really ministered to me. That's just amazing. Really, really amazing. Let's talk about your history with lupus a little bit more, because again, you have a wonderful testimony, a miraculous testimony of God's healing in your own life. And tell us that story.
Well, I diagnosed with multiple inflammatory diseases, migraines, all these things. And because I'd fallen away from God, I did not feel worthy of him healing me. People would always say to me, I'm praying for you, God will heal you. And sorry. I couldn't accept it. I just would say, if I'm sick for a reason. I just couldn't accept or pray for healing because I thought, I'm too unworthy. Look at what I'm doing. Look how I've lived my life. Look at the sins I've committed. can't ask God to heal me. And I just felt so wretched and dirty and tainted and awful. And I couldn't accept it. And I remarried, and I felt that, all this stuff started to happen with the, I actually like to come back to this because I think this is one of the most crucial things ever.
Sure.
Me and my husband fasted. We did a church-wide fast for 3 weeks. We had never done anything like this. Neither one of us ever. And during this time, I decided to seek God for healing and do the best that I could, because I was still struggling, but also for wisdom about what he would have me to do, with my life and the decisions, because I just felt like I was in the same job for so long, and just really wanted direction. And this was back in 2012, the very beginning of 2012. It was before we were married. And it was that April that I sent my songs to Pete Stewart, and he got back with me. And so I was not even thinking about music or anything at that, when I'd fasted.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking back now on that year and everything that happened, I started out the very first 3 weeks of that year with fasting. That year, God took me into music. He healed me of my lupus. I married my now husband. I recorded my first 2 songs. It was like I think sometimes when we do something drastic in obedience for God, he answers in a drastic and amazing way.
Yeah.
And it, to me, is still the most beautiful thing, because now I connect it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look back and it started with that. But then I remember when I prayed that prayer, when I first started really getting into the music thing started to go, and I said, okay, God, for the very first time in true faith, I really stepped out and I said, okay, if you want me to do this, if you really want me to do this, then you're going to have to make a way, because you know how sick I am. You'd have to heal me at this, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it. And that was the first time I really, truly said it and believed, without thinking about anything else, but just truly believed that, hey, okay, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to do something. And he did.
And he did. Yeah. It's cool. It's such a wonderful testimony of how you can't outdo God. I think even in our financially, if we give to God, and in serving, if we give to God, he's always going to give back to us. So by fasting and really giving that part of your life to the Lord for those 3 weeks, he just blessed you so much, even to the point of healing your body. Just what a wonderful, wonderful testimony. And I like in your bio how you stated when you had lupus, your life started, it starts to revolve around the disease, and you can't do this, you can't do that, but you didn't give up on God's plan for you. You stepped in obedience, knowing that this is what he wanted you to do, and he took care of the rest, and he healed you. And I think that shows such obedience and such strength. And in your bio, it says that you plan on giving a certain portion of your sales to the Lupus Foundation. That's correct, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, and I do plan also on giving a certain amount to, I think it's Heartline.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I wish I had it. I want to say Heartline or Helpline, but my mind's so blank.
That's
It's
okay.
on Noise Trade right now. They're a suicide helpline. And
Okay.
it's for the very reason that we talked about, because I think when people are without hope and they're on that verge of just, there was times when I wish I had had somebody to call. I wish I had had somebody to reach out to, because I was just at the end of myself. And I didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to. And that's what their service is it's a service of people that you can call when, you know, you're thinking about that. And we know that suicide is, you know, it's not just, unfortunately, people that are lost. There's so many Christians that struggle with it as well.
Yep.
And sometimes, unfortunately, it's because of that weight of guilt that they start to feel, or the weight of the high expectations, or especially for high achievers, feeling like that they've just done too much and that God won't forgive them. And I know that was probably a big thing for me. I couldn't forgive myself. I couldn't forgive myself for feeling like I had failed God so miserably. And I think that people need to know, no, God does love you. There's never too much. There's never a point where he will not forgive you or take you back, just like the prodigal son. There's never a time that he will not welcome you with open arms. And look what he can do. I mean, look what he's done with my life. I hope that if nothing else, my life is not an amazing testimony for what he can do for anybody. You know, like I try to tell people, it's not like I'm special. I mean, he'll do this for anybody. I mean, he has a plan for each and every one of us. And I just want people to know that there is hope out there and that there is help out there. And I just want to be able to give back in any way that I can.
Well, I definitely think you're doing that currently, Shauna, and you're going to continue to do that. I feel and I know that God is going to use you, and he has used you even today, and just speaking into my own life and encouraging me. And I know that you're going to encourage our listeners, and you're going to encourage the people you eventually play in front of, and God's going to even heal you of your anxieties that you have on stage. And as you keep learning and keep pushing forward and learning how to perform and interact with people on stage, even though it's really scary, God's going to give you that confidence. And because I think you have such a wonderful testimony and strong message that the enemy wants to not allow you to do that, to not allow you to enter into this wonderful ministry. And you just got to keep pushing forward. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show with us this afternoon and sharing all the wonderful things that you shared. Just give a quick plug for yourself, where we can find you, social media, how people can get in contact with you, to book you for a show, to find your music, and everything. Shauna Marie, give yourself a plug.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
On my website at ShaunaMarieMusic.com, on my Facebook page, which is also, there's links on my website to my Facebook page and to my Twitter. And then from there, you should be able to get links to go to my music, because I've posted to iTunes, to Noise Trade as well. You can reach me for booking at contact@legacyartistmanagementandgmt.com. And I'm actually hoping to try to get out and start doing maybe some acoustic sets and stuff maybe later this summer. Getting really excited.
So that concludes our interview with Shauna Marie. I really hope that you enjoyed it, that you were encouraged, that you were challenged. And as I was interviewing Shauna Marie, I just kept thinking of the artist Laura Story and her song called Blessings. And the song talks about, I mean, you probably heard it before, but the song talks about the trials of life and counting them as blessings, even counting it all joy when we go through various trials. So here's Laura's Story with Blessings.
We pray for blessings, we pray for peace, comfort for family, protection while we sleep. We pray for healing, for prosperity. We pray for your mighty hand to ease our suffering. And all the while, you hear each spoken need. Yet love is way too much to give us lesser things. 'Cause what if your blessings come through raindrops? What if your healing comes through tears? What if 1,000 sleepless nights are what it takes to know you're near? What if trials of this life are your mercies in disguise? We pray for wisdom, your voice to hear. And we cry in anger when we cannot feel you near. We doubt your goodness, we doubt your love, as if every promise from your word is not enough. And all the while, you hear each desperate plea, and long that we'd have faith to believe. 'Cause what if your blessings come through raindrops? What if your healing comes through tears? And what if 1,000 sleepless nights are what it takes to know you're near? And what if trials of this life are your mercies in disguise? When friends betray us, when darkness seems to win, we know the pain reminds this heart that this is not our home. It's not our home. 'Cause what if your blessings come through raindrops? What if your healing comes through tears? And what if 1,000 sleepless nights are what it takes to know you're near? What if my greatest disappointments or the aching of this life is the revealing of a greater thirst this world can't satisfy? And what if trials of this life, the rain, the storms, the hardest nights, are your mercies in disguise?
Would you like to have Des play at your church, venue, retreat, or event? Well, she would love to come minister to you. You can find out more and make your request at dezchilds.com. That's DEZCHILDS.com.
I've never known feel like this, breaking me down.
Thank you so much for listening in and tuning into the Des Child Show this Wednesday afternoon. Have a great day. God bless you. If you want to call us, if you need prayer, if you want to promote your upcoming event, or if you want to promote your debut CD, your second CD, your third CD, or wherever you want to promote your book. We do it all. So call us at 856-244-1503. Hit me up on Facebook. My name's Des Childs, DEZCHILDS. So have a great day and God bless.
Oh, I climbed over the fence in hopes that I'd find my happiness, but I'm so lonely. Oh God, I'm so lonely. One step